Hello to fellow listeners. Welcome back to another episode here on Creepy with Coffee. Today's story, it's about another highway in Malaysia. Today, instead of the northern part of Malaysia, today we're going to talk about a highway alongside in Selangor. This story is set in 2001 or 2002, according to the person who wrote this story. And it's about a rest stop. But not the R&R that we know alongside highway in Malaysia. But it's more to food huts, would you call it? Food huts that is alongside this highway. So today's story title, It Was Never There.
This is Creepy with Coffee.
So this story happened back in 2001-2002. A newly completed highway in Selangor. One evening, I decided to take my family for a drive along this new route. As we neared the end of the highway, which connected to a state road, we crossed a bridge over a small river. To our left, by the river bank, stood a wooden building. Turns out it was a restaurant or a food place. About 50 meters past the bridge, there was a lane to the left next to a large leafy tree covered in parasitic plants hanging down to the ground, which is actually quite a common sight in Malaysia. Turning left again, after the tree, we followed a lane leading directly to the restaurant. We saw about 3 to 4 other cars parked along the lane. The restaurant consisted of 3 wooden buildings, elevated about 1.5 meters off the ground. The largest building housed the dining area and the kitchen, sitting about 5 meters from the riverbank. The second building was a separate restroom and a prayer area. The third building, a smaller wooden hut, stood next to a small jetty over the river in front of the main dining area. My wife, our 4-year-old son, and I climbed the steps and wooden walkway into the dining area. It was around past 6 p.m. and the lights inside the restaurant were already on, brightly illuminating the space. There were 7 to 8 other customers quietly eating, so I assume the 3-4 cars, it's these customers. We took a seat at the table, and a friendly lady, which we assume is the owner, at the counter, who seemed local to Selangor, took our order. We opted for a mixed tom yum soup, steamed sea bass with lime, omelette, rice, and a jug of ice syrup bandung. Our son, excited by the sight of the river, pulled me towards the jetty. I held him tightly, wary of the water below. The river was calm. My son peered into the water, hoping to spot some fish. Suddenly, he looked up at the wooden hut by the jetty. Through the gaps in the loosely arranged wooden planks, he could see inside, though only faintly. But his expression turned curious. Remember, this is a 4-year-old boy. And then he exclaimed, "Daddy, there's a monster." I was about to ask him more when I noticed my wife waving from the dining area. So we headed back to our table. Surprisingly, in less than 10 minutes, our food was ready and it was served hot. Strangely, we were the only ones left in the dining area when my son and I came back. All the other customers had seemed to be vanished or left the place. I glanced towards the parking area and saw only our car, which is a Proton Wajah. The person did not actually mention whether he asked the wife what happened to the other customers or not, so probably he just assumed everybody just left. By now, it was already 6:45 p.m. and the dusk was settling in. The food, while tasty, wasn't particularly special, just like any other tom yum and steamed fish that we had elsewhere. We finished our meal by 7 p.m. and with the Maghrib prayer time approaching at 7:15 p.m. As I went to pay, my wife and son headed to the car. Then I heard my son telling his mum, "Mama, the monster, it's coming out," while pointing at the wooden hut by the jetty. Remember earlier on the wooden hut where he said he saw a monster? He said, "Mama, the monster, it's coming out." I paid 20 ringgit to the lady at the counter and asked if the restaurant was new. She smiled and replied, "We've been here long before the new highway." We got into the car and drove back home, not thinking much of the encounter as we were satisfied and our tummy were full. A week later, Just a week later, around the same time in the evening, we found ourselves driving along the same highway. As we approached the bridge over the river, my son suddenly exclaimed, "This is the monster place! Daddy, this is the monster place!" Glancing to the left, I was shocked. The restaurant by the jetty was still there, but it was now surrounded by overgrown bushes and trees, looking like it had been abandoned for years. I stopped near the large tree by the land. The once clear path was now overrun with tall grass and dense vegetation. The jetty structure was still visible, but the floor had collapsed, leaving only the supporting posts. The wooden hut remained standing, untouched by time. My wife then puzzled remarked, "Didn't we just had dinner here last week?" I stayed silent, feeling a chill down my spine. My son, standing between our seats, pointed at the wooden hut and said, "Daddy, the monster is here! The monster is here!" At that moment, I saw the hut's wall shake and heard a loud splash in the river like something had fallen or jumped into the water. Without hesitation, I reversed the car, quickly getting back onto the highway and drove away from that eerie place. And that, my friend, is a mysterious hut by the river story. So what do you think it is? That our storyteller actually had something that was not from our world? Or is it some hallucination? But we are talking about 3 family members experiencing the same thing here though. And what did the son actually see when they were at that place? Who or what is that monster? Leave it down below in the comment section if you have anything to say about it. Do let us know if you have any experiences or stories to share. And if you have yet to subscribe, please do so. I would appreciate it a lot. Until the next episode, stay safe.